This is Afroeconomics with J.B. Bryan. Afroeconomics is a strategic financial management program designed for the advancement of Black wealth in America and abroad.
Welcome to the Carl Nelson Show
on Washington, D.C.'s 1450 WOL Radio and live around the world on WOLDCnews.com.
And thanks for joining us, family. We hope you had a great weekend. Financial advisor J.B. Bryan is here. J.B., welcome back to WOL Radio.
It's so good to be here, Carl. What a great day. Happy Monday. Happy Monday, everybody. It's so good to be
Happy
here.
Happy Monday. And you know what? Hopefully you can give us some advice of what to do, JB. So that's why we called on you, in fact. But, JB,
yes,
let's
indeed.
get it started.
I'm going to tell you, over the weekend myself, I was seriously frustrated. I had to, calm down on Sunday. I just couldn't understand how we have these people in Congress and they couldn't just do a simple extension so that we don't have a lapse. Now, I don't know. We're all at work. We don't have time to keep up with what went down today. But I'm hoping, and I saw an interview this morning and the anchor was asking why can't you all just do an extension, And then so I think the party politics has dehumanized the issue of the money that's needed. I mean, we're dealing with, as you mentioned, the production, the sales, the income, everything that represents the U.S. economy is down. And even though it is moving, not down as bad as what they thought. So that's why when the economic numbers came out for the second quarter, that it was anticipated that it was going to be even worse. So even though it was the worst that it's been since 1921, it wasn't as bad as it could have been. And that is amazing that when you're talking about the economy and the market moving according to how people with money react. So when things aren't as bad as they could have been, people with money get excited and they go, oh, we'll be all right. So the market continues to move forward. But we're talking about millions of people who are not back to work and millions of jobs that have been, closed and they're not anticipating ever opening again. So I am challenging whoever will listen that's in a position to make a difference that we need a long-term plan. And I'm not asking for too much, but I think that from our politicians, we need not party politics, but the human factor to be brought into Congress and address that families have to pay their bills. You've asked that people slow down in their interactions, in their ways of making income. If we have to have this distance between us, then you can't put as many people into the restaurant. So you can't hire as many people. You don't need as many people. And people can't come out. You can't allow as many people to come in. So we are in economic duress. So we need to make sure that we don't have a stop of support for the state's unemployment numbers. And unfortunately, we don't have enough empathy because the people generally that hold the microphone don't have the problem. You don't see them going through the neighborhoods of people who were already living under a livable wage. Our minimum wage in this country is less than a livable wage. We do all those numbers, and we know that the minimum wage that businesses are allowed to pay people is less than livable in our country. So these people are working and still in poverty, and they are already in that challenge. So we don't have enough discussion with that group who is actually going through the challenge of where I worked is closed down. Where I worked has no benefits for me. Where I worked, they used to have benefits, but there's no benefits because they closed down. There's millions of people, Carl, that have no insurance coverage now. So they're going to have to come up with money for that.
And you mentioned a plan. It doesn't seem like Congress has a plan for anything. I mean, they don't have a plan for this COVID-19, and they don't have a plan to pull us out of this economic problem that we're having.
And they talk about buildings. They're talking about, buildings. And we're talking about, look, let's keep it simple. Let's just make sure that everybody eats.
Yeah, it's because I understand that come Friday, there's a moratorium on people getting evicted, and somehow it's going to be lifted on Friday. And if you don't get a check by now and then,
that's right.
A lot of people are going to be out in the streets.
I'm glad you brought that up because it's already been lifted in a lot of areas. Evictions have been allowed. Many Virginia towns. I saw Virginia in Richmond, Virginia, a person on Facebook post the listing of people, the owners, I guess, coming to collect their rent. But on the page of notices where he was saying, like, look at all these people being evicted, it actually was more payroll loan companies than they were evictions. There may be like 6 evictions, but the majority of them were check this, check that, check this, check that, all like payday loans. So, that's a scary part of what may have been something. Say somebody did it the first week of March, got a payday loan, and the next week their job was closed down. So they didn't have a paycheck, come in, or they're trying to figure out how to pay it back. Because those payday loans, from what I've heard, like once you get into that loop, it's very hard to get out. And they're taking each of your paychecks. If you stop getting a paycheck, then you're not paying it. And their interest rate is very ugly. So, I think a lot about, unless when people call in today, I'm really going to think in my mind, is that a defensive move or an offensive financial move? Like, because...
Well, let me jump in and ask you this, though, JB, because a lot of time they blame the victim. They blame the people who were caught up in this. You mentioned on that treadmill of payday loans. And the fact that they're not working and they can't pay their bills, they blame them. What do you say to that?
And this is probably, right now, we're dealing with people who had a payday loan before the pandemic, which is, a problem because they couldn't get in. And I say that we do have self-responsibility. I do feel that we have responsibility, but at the same time, we have to stop allowing ourselves to be bamboozled by this system of materialism. So we have we're dropped into a world where we're the lowest economically. And you see all these commercials and you want the same thing that everybody else has. But in order for you to buy it, it costs you twice as much. Because generally, like if you're like me, we didn't start with an inheritance. We started with just trying to go to school. So then you get a school loan. Then you get out of school. Then you get a car loan. Now you got school loans and car loans. Then you get a house loan. So we're just, because we don't have generational wealth yet. We have that challenge, of realizing that I can't do what is shown in front of me all the time, and that I am going to have to put off some things. So there's a match between there's not enough corporate responsibility and commitment to everybody having at least a livable wage. And then those of us who do have and well over a livable wage, we have to take a sense of responsibility to make sure that the next generation lives better than us. And that means that we're going to have to do some sacrifice, and we're not going to be able to do everything that we want to do just because we can. We can't take out or take advantage of every loan that we can be approved for just because we can. I mean, I work with so many people, unfortunately, who are maxed out and they're in their 70s, who are refinancing their homes and have car payments and have, these huge mortgage payments, and they're on fixed income. And so every dime of what they're making between their pension, Social Security is used on these debts. That's, if that's not the way you want your senior years to be spent, we're going to have to make some sacrifices and make a personal commitment that even though that looks good, I'm going to have to go without. Even though everybody I know might have the newest and the best, and they might say things to you, because I've heard that all my career. You know you could buy this, or you know you could afford that, or you know you could buy, but that's good to hear. Because I believe that we live a better life and you can follow your dreams a lot easier if we focus on living well below our means, because this is a huge example of you absolutely never know what might happen. And this pandemic is hitting everybody, from people making $300,000 or $500,000 a year. Like, I have some doctors whose income has been cut off, some doctors whose income has been cut down because they can't see as many patients. That this, to all the way down to a person who can't work in their restaurant, a hairdresser who doesn't have as many people or can't see as many people. So it goes, all over the income spectrum and occupation spectrum. And when I say up and down, not in any way suggesting that one is better than the other, but I mean that it's all over the scope. And that's why I feel that the government was forced to come up with that extra $600, because this is more than a poverty issue. This pandemic is showing us our lifestyle issue. That, the majority of Americans, no matter how much they were making, did not have a fully funded emergency account. It was saying, there was research.
Let's go right there, JB, because we're coming up on a break. And when we come back, though, once you got any advice for the folks, you mentioned some of the people who were on fixed income. What can they do during this pandemic? And they got a fixed income and they haven't paid their mortgage or their rent. What sort of advice do you have for them when if ever these checks come back, start rolling again?
Okay.
You got a question about finances? This is a lady you need to talk to. My name is J.B. Bryan. Reach out to us at 800-450-7876. We'll take your calls after this short break right here on 1450 WOL, where information is power.
Join Afro Economics, where our Black wealth matters. Free online events and app. Discover culturally conscious investing and financial planning, credit, tax planning, insurance, and starting your own business. Call me at 1-844-522-7926. I'm J.B. Bryan, the creator of Afro Economics. Hashtag Afro Economics. Hashtag J.B. Bryan.
And now back to the Carl Nelson Show on Washington, D.C.'s 1450 WOL Radio.
And thanks for staying with us, folks. Our guest is financial advisor J.B. Bryan from Afro Economics. If you got a question about money, this is the lady you need to talk to. Our number is 800-450-7876. We're discussing the fact that the Congress has not yet extended the $600 unemployment benefits, and they sure haven't started discussing the stimulus package. They're only discussing it, just haven't come up with a conclusion for the stimulus package. And some places now, they're allowing evictions to go through, and I think most of them are starting Friday. It will happen. So you got some cash flow issues. You don't have to use your real name. Use a different name, and you got questions on how to deal with them. This is the lady you need to talk to. So, JB, before we left for the break, I was asking you the question, what can you do for those folks who are tapped out and just have nothing, nowhere to go? No food, can't pay the bills, light bill, water bill, can't pay the rent, the mortgage. What do they do?
I want to, first, you were talking about fixed income. And it made me think about this, and we should do an entire segment one day, if you have time, about senior abuse and senior financial protection. Because during COVID, the financial abuse of senior citizens has increased dramatically. And you can kind of see it when you look at television commercials. They're about, not suggesting that the commercials are about senior abuse, but the scammers know also that seniors are the people who still have the money. If you're literally on fixed income, COVID coming in costs you a little bit more because things are inconvenient, but your income, if you keep your expenses the same, can be the same. But you got to fight to avoid new debt. Because look at the commercials. You got lawn care, extermination, foundation, all, windows, roofs, like everything is about the house. And you that are, especially now you have even more people that aren't seniors that are stuck at home. But these are for you with fixed income. It's all about you. And then, so I challenge everyone that's on fixed income, especially, our seniors, to avoid new expenses. Don't go into any more debt. I was surprised to see they had an interview about the automobile industry. And the automobile numbers, if you can look it up, the automobile sales are actually increasing. And they don't have a lot of inventory anyway. So, and then they're doing these zero interest that some people do qualify for. So a zero interest debt is not supposed to cost you more, but I have had members say that they try to increase the price too high when it is no interest. Now you need to be aware of that. Make sure you know what the price is, because the price should be the same regardless of your interest rate. Your financing should have nothing to do with your purchase price. But avoid debt. Don't fall into that. There's a lot of, it's going to look like this is once in a lifetime. You've got to buy this now. You have to protect yourself completely. Don't be sloppy. This is not the time to stop looking at your checking statement or your savings statement or your retirement accounts. This is the time when you have to start looking at things even closer. You see a lot that they're talking about in Washington about other countries looking at our computers. This stuff is real. Cybersecurity is a huge part of the regulation of my investment advisory firm. The regulators want to make sure that all persons dealing in financial services have cybersecurity protection for their customers. So I spend a lot of my budget, more than I want to, on just having the cybersecurity that is required. And then so you need to cyber secure yourself. I have a video, it's of course free on YouTube on cybersecurity, because there's a lot of people, they don't have anything, Carl, but time on their hands right now. So they're going around trying to send you out faulty emails, faulty texts on your phone. And I would bet that a whole bunch of people listening right now, you could give me examples of within the last 2 weeks of just people trying to scam you and sending you links to go to bad places and put viruses on you or to get access to your information on your computer. So know that you need to always have password access. Change the passwords regularly. Make sure that you're careful with where your things and your statements are placed, because unfortunately, it's family members, according to the research. Your identity and the financial exploitation is typically by a family member or someone or caregiver that that a senior will know even. So now with the separation between the children and say their parents, the parents may have people coming into their home. Like I had a client in her 80s, and someone came into her home and she just was delighted to have company, and she signed paperwork to do some serious damage to her financial position. So she called me and she told me about it, and I had to intervene, and I got her on the phone, and I explained to the company that she did not understand what she was doing, and we have to stop this. So then the person who exploited her, and this just happened within the last few weeks since I last talked to you, Carl, the person that was exploiting her in between called and said, oh, she changed her mind. Make sure this goes through. And I called them and I said, wait a minute. This client was just on the phone with you, plus we emailed you saying send all the information attached to this. So then I sent to the client, I explained to her, and I said, see here, it says you don't want to touch your money for the next 10 years. And see here, it says if you do, you have to pay this amount of money, and then she did not understand any of what she had done to her liquidity. So, but we have to be careful. And I'm so glad that I was there for her to say like, oh, I mean, and she was telling me just kind of happy-go-lucky. I almost started crying. I was like, well, there's no reason to cry. Like, just see what you can do to help her. But I'm going through that a lot. Just on Saturday afternoon, set up a special appointment for these senior citizens to talk about a tax return that was done with a tax preparer in New York. And the tax preparer, we called on Friday. He hung up the phone on me, didn't want to talk. And then I tried to get, we were all there together. He hung up, said, I can't talk to you. Then he called the husband back of the lady who caught the error. And then he told the husband, okay, I'll talk to her. So he calls back. We set up the appointment. And then he says, cancels it at the last minute on Saturday and says, I cannot talk to you. He did two of their returns wrong. He charged them $1,500 for a personal return, which is exploitation right there. There is absolutely no one in his practice that he had a $1,500 charge for, I'm sure. But because he knew they had the money, he took advantage of them. And they were related. That's what's so bad about it. So then in my attempt to intervene, I said to him, you cannot refuse. You're the one that scheduled this appointment. When he called back, and he was nowhere to be found. He will not respond. And then it's just really upsetting them because they feel like, why would he do this to me? And I keep seeing that over and over, tax preparers making errors. Then the client or I discover the error, and she just had errors over and over and over. He had like previous years of tax returns in there where it'll show like your trends. And he had that she owed like over $100,000 in tax liability from previous years that didn't exist. I'm like, oh my goodness. If they take this seriously, that means you owe them a lot of money. So we're like just trying to get him to take responsibility for his work. He wasn't having it. And so I just said, well, we'll work through this. We'll just call directly to New York, and then we'll call, to the various states where they had to pay some income to. They're very organized people. I mean, and I just love to see when our seniors are on top of their game. And I'm so thankful to be able to be there as an advocate, as a resource. But, and that was just, that wasn't like any charge to them. It was just a basic Afroeconomics membership that's what I feel that we have to do. The Afroeconomics has to be an advocate to the financial service community, because if we don't do it...
Hang on a second, JB. We got to take a short break right here on 1450 WOL, where information is power.
I'm JB Bryan, the creator of Afroeconomics, a strategic financial empowerment program based on 10 timeless financial principles like generational wealth and legacy, financial knowledge, credit confidence, entrepreneurship, self-reliance, and more. Afroeconomics gives you the guidance and tools you can use to develop and sustain wealth. Check out Afroeconomics on your favorite social media platforms. You will find us everywhere. Plus, enjoy my weekly Afroeconomics podcast. There are many levels of Afroeconomics membership, including the free online access membership level called No Excuses. So make no excuses and check out Afroeconomics.com today. Powered by JB Bryan Financial Group, Incorporated, a registered investment advisory firm. #Afroeconomics.
And now back to the Carl Nelson Show on Washington, D.C.'s 1450 WOL Radio.
And thanks for staying with us, folks. I guess this is J.B. Bryan. J.B. is a financial advisor, and in these trying times, we're helping to trying to find a way to help some folks, especially if you're still waiting on your $600 unemployment benefit or the stimulus package. That money, they're still talking about that right now. Anyway, let's see if we can help some other folks.
That's right.
Who having problems.
That's right. And definitely, that's exactly what I want us to do. But for some reason, I really have just been feeling really compassionate about or just the seniors that are going through these things right now. But I do challenge all of us to make sure that we're checking all our stuff out. Like, everybody's just filing their tax return, or they filed it and they put it away. Make sure you take it out, you look at it, and if you have, a good advisor, make sure that you're looking through the things together. Not to belabor the point, but having a good advisor that you trust, can make a difference. And then, just another look at it, and that's what's really important. If you find yourself working with a professional who doesn't like you to get your other professionals involved, you need to consider another professional, because a real professional knows that in order to take good care of a client, it requires a lot of us to be working together. And that is ridiculous that we kind of settle for bad behavior out of people. And we shouldn't. And don't make excuses for people. And don't allow people to let you sign something without you first agreeing to it. If it says, okay, you get $10,000 back, that doesn't mean that that's correct. You need to find out, why am I getting $10,000 back? How did the numbers flow? Make them teach you what came out. Don't just get excited because you're getting it. Because I also, this tax season, had a client that got back $15,000. She was so excited. She tells me about it later. Then I look at her return and I'm like, what in the world did she do? And I was like, what is this? She was like, what are you talking about? I was like, this is all wrong. Like, this wasn't a business property. This wasn't, and she's like, whoa, it wasn't a business property. Oh, I don't know. She was just so excited that she got the money back that she didn't realize there were huge errors on there. And so the tax preparer told her, don't worry about it. If they catch it, then we'll fix it. And I said, but if they catch it, then you look like you're an idiot. You know what I'm saying? So don't allow them.
She's responsible for
yes.
it, not the tax preparer.
Yes, that's right. And that's what they're not adding on, that only the client has to pay the interest and the penalties. So just get it right, and don't allow anybody to say, well, it could draw attention to you. If you do it correctly and you get audited, it's not a problem. Why is there a problem? We should not be terrified about an audit. If there's something that's done wrong, it's best to catch it as early as possible, because penalties and interest, they don't care. They'll just keep tacking it on. So you have to catch it.
Let me
That's
do this,
right.
because the pie man from D.C. makes the best pie in the DMV.
I love it.
Dropped off some pies for us. I love this. Man, I'm just crazy about the pie man's pie. And if you've had it, the brother's pies, you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
He told me that 40% of black businesses are not coming back. By the way, let me just tell that if you want to try his pies, go to Yes Organic, and anywhere in the DMV, just check for the pie man. And check
fabulous.
The blueberry.
I love his website too. Really nice website.
Yeah.
Go Pie Man.
Great brother. He came by the studio and dropped off some pies, and there were a lot of people who weren't there. He still brought some pies. So always any event that we're at, he's there.
That's
Pie
so
Man
good.
at DC. But he told me that was interesting, though. He says that 40% of black businesses will never come back, will never recover. We don't have enough black businesses already. So what do we do, JB?
I think that's sad. And I think that at least about 40% of black businesses are probably doing those PPP loan applications. And I think I have kind of made a statement that you need to stay as far away from them as possible. If you feel that your business is not going to exist, don't take that loan out, because you will have to pay it back. And we're not talking about a bank. We're talking about the federal government. They will get their money. You're going to have to work somewhere. They're going to get their money back. So don't do it. If you're not going to be able to use it for whatever the criteria that it says in order to get it as a grant, and then it has fine things that have to be done, and all of that is regulated. And, I had one family that a group One of our minority business groups came in, very nice, told them what to do, fill out, blah, blah, blah. But they had never really done any payroll. So they said, well, it doesn't have to be used for payroll, but they were talking about after you get it. But the calculation for your qualification was based on your past payroll. So we have to be very careful that we don't allow something that helps an organization get money from the government be a fatality to your financial well-being down the road. So,
well, let me jump in here, JB. Is there a prevailing thought that somehow these, you say it's a loan, but somehow it's sort of framed as a grant?
That's right.
If you do certain things, you don't have to pay.
That's
back?
right. But you can't go out of business. Because if you want it to qualify for a grant, you can't go out of business. So if Pie Man is saying it's correct, then they're going to have a huge bill, because that grant is for businesses that continue to exist, because you have to use it for payroll going forward. So that's how you get, because payroll, you have to pay back into the system. You have to pay the payroll taxes. You have to pay the Social Security, the Medicare, you pay. So they can do that as a grant because payroll is accountable. They can tell that you did that to help the American economy. But if you don't have that where it can be put in there when they look up your tax ID and you did what you said that you're going to do, it doesn't matter that you said you did it, that you're going to do it. They don't even need you to know, because there's this brother in Atlanta who went and applied for it and he didn't have that payroll, and he has a $2 million federal charge now for getting that loan. He didn't have the existing employees that he said. So now he has worse problems than he's probably ever had in his life. And they knew exactly what he spent the money on, Carl. They knew that he paid back child support.
So, I guess he's on fraud charges then.
Yes.
He didn't have a payroll.
This is a TV star. Wow. You should Google it. That's a TV star. He was on one of the shows. Yeah, they knew everything he bought. A Rolls Royce lease, $40,000 child support. He bought a ring. They took seriously, if we get all the details, I think that the lender was involved in this. Like, they knew it was fraudulent from the beginning, because they knew what he did from the beginning, which is very possible.
How are these loans? Are these like SBA loans? They go through the bank? Is that
That's
how
right.
Done?
That's right. He went into the bank and is guaranteed by the government. You know what I'm saying? And in financial services, if you're suspicious of something being fraudulent, all you have to do is report it. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to call the police. You know what I'm saying? Where you report it to our regulators, but you don't have to arrest them yourself. You see what I'm saying? So he doesn't know who it was that recognized this is fraudulent, but it wouldn't have taken a lot to figure that out. But he's just was probably excited about it, and they probably still got paid for doing the loan. And he has to still pay all of it back. They probably took their fee off the top. He got the leftovers, but you know what I'm saying? They said, thank you. That's how they got paid for turning them in. And there's people all over the country getting this, and we have to be very careful.
You know what the sad part about that, though, JB? You've got some people, legitimate people, who need the money.
That's right. And that's right. And they're getting nothing left, or there's nothing for you, and they're putting down the truth and, not getting approved. So sadly enough, maybe that happens. But the truth of the matter is, if you have payroll that you are trying to protect, you're trying to protect somebody's paycheck, you legitimately should be using it to protect your payroll. But the challenge is, if you don't think, if it's only going to help you pay a paycheck, but you're not going to be able to sustain your business, you may be better off financially closing the business down and figuring out how to regroup from this. We talk it through, because sometimes it's like drowning when you start beating the water, you know what I mean? And you're just grabbing at everything. All you do is drown faster. You got to get your form right. So you have to regather
hang
yourself.
on a second, JB. We got to take
Yes.
a break here, and that's a good question for us to have discuss when we get back. You know, what should you do if you're in trouble, financially in trouble? You got a business. Should you throw in the chips, or should you try and get some more loans? Well, I want to get your thoughts on that. And looking through your crystal ball of what the economy is going to do in the upcoming months. 800-450-7876. You got a financial question for our guest, J.B. Bryan? Reach out to us. We'll take your calls after the short break right here on 1450. WOL, where information is power.
Join Afro Economics, where our Black wealth matters. Free online events and app. Discover culturally conscious investing and financial planning, credit, tax planning, insurance, and starting your own business. Call me at 1-844-522-7926. I'm J.B. Bryan, the creator of Afro Economics. Hashtag Afro Economics. Hashtag J.B. Bryan.
And now back to the Carl Nelson Show on Washington, D.C.'s 1450. 1450 WOL Radio.
And thanks for staying with us, folks. Our guest is J.B. Bryan. J.B. is a financial advisor. The number to call to speak to her is 800-450-7876. So, J.B., I'm going to let you finish your thought.
Yes, indeed. You know, Carl, I have never shared this with you, but I was interviewed on the show last week, and this the gentleman was a white guy that was the host of the show, and he was doing something on Black wealth and the history of it. He was a history person. And then he said, "Oh, so certainly, JB, do you do investments and you don't just focus on Black people, do you?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "No, what I was saying is you don't just focus on Black people, do you?" And I said, "Yes, I do." And he said, "Oh, wow, we've got to have you back, blah, blah, blah." But I wanted to say to you, Carl, thank you, because as a Black firm, Black business, as Pie Man said, there's like 40% of us might be left. I thank you for acknowledging me and my firm, because J.B. Bryan Financial Group, which is the home of Afro Economics, may possibly be the only registered investment advisory firm on the planet that is 100% Black owned and focuses on serving Black people all the time. That's all we do. And we really want to be advocates for our community. So I appreciate your show just as an opportunity to direct, to be able to serve, because it's hard to be able to talk to us, to get to us, but that is what I truly believe that I've been put here to do, and I just appreciate this opportunity to do it.
Oh, I thank you. You don't have to make any excuses for helping Black folks. That's what we're here for. If you can't speak on a Black radio station, where can you speak?
That's right.
That's what we're here to,
to
help our people.
Yes.
It's okay to get on the radio and talk stuff each and every day, and when you close the mic and you haven't helped anybody, you haven't accomplished anything.
Yes.
So that's how I look at life, really. Because you're supposed to be helping people.
Yes.
What have you done?
Yes.
Fill their heads with nonsense and conspiracy theories.
Yes.
Or can they go out and use that information that you gave them and better their lives?
Yes.
That's what we try to do anyway.
Yes. And but there are a lot of Black professionals, unfortunately, that don't feel the way you just said. And I feel like the biggest contributor to the ending of the Black wealth gap is that those of us that do serve us, do your part. Do your part. Like, we have to make that commitment to Black business success. Like, I don't believe that people have to do business with a Black business. I believe that people that do business with my business are very fortunate. I mean, I see it as a blessing that that this firm even exists for us. And that's the way, when you're a servant, when you are a business owner and you're in our community, we have to be servant leaders. We are leaders, but we have to, our leadership has to be created because of what a great job not because of the car that you drive or how big the building is and the offices, but how great you took care of people, how good you made people feel. And that is generational wealth. Then you don't have to worry about your kids starting at the bottom because they're starting with your good name, which is everything. If we don't give them anything else, they be able to say, well, Carl Nelson, you know what I mean? Any descendant of you, everybody will know, because everything about you is kindness and respect and building you up, building people up. That's priceless, especially when we live in a world like this.
Here's the other part, though, JB. Mm-hmm. The people who give you the most resistance.
Yes.
The people you're trying to help.
Yes. Amen. Lord, yes.
As a black person
yes.
in business or anything that you do, I'm speaking the truth. The people that you're trying to help are the people who get the most resistance and try to tear you down. But once you understand,
that should be a gospel
here's the
song.
other part, too. Once you understand that, you understand how to deal with it, so it doesn't bother you.
Yes.
So it's okay.
Yes.
You expect that.
Yes.
Anyway, let's help some folks.
Yes.
800-450-7876. Will's on line 2, calling from the district. Will, you're on with JB.
I will.
Yes. Great topic, money.
Amen. That's right.
Yeah, but my thing is that about $100,000, $50,000, and then tens. I've been looking at gold and silver. Any other way that you can, invest money? I know there's a lot of other ways, but
yeah, I just did a workshop about that last week, about how to look at your alternative. That's what they call gold and silver, and international markets and even real estate. They could be considered alternative investments. So if you even private equity, investing into smaller companies, but there are ways to do that if you work with an investment advisor. Like that's what my firm does. Help you get into those things that are regulated, though. Like, because when we're buying gold, a lot of times, unfortunately, we're buying it in the most expensive ways, like through these groups or through some indirect bars, and they send you pieces of paper and you don't really have it in your hand and you don't really know where it is and how are you going to sell it, But when you're working with a regulated person who has a license, they're going to tell you how things that have been approved and cleared by the government to be sold to you to protect your financial future. So when you do these alternative investments, you just need to be careful who you're buying them from. And is it, regulated or is it not? Like, a lot of us are doing Forex things that aren't regulated. So what does unregulated mean? If it says that it's not regulated, that means you're not protected. Who's going to help you get your money back? Who's going to make sure that your best interest is considered in transactions? Who's going to make sure that it is actually appropriate for you? So a lot of times what I'll do first is do a risk tolerance analysis. And then I discover that you're not appropriate for that. Like you may have you might say, well, I don't like losing money. And you might not understand that when you're talking about these alternative investments, you're exposing yourself to a lot of risk. So, it depends on how much you want to watch out for yourself. But I feel that our community needs to stop throwing our money down these black unregulated holes and lift ourselves up and start dealing with people who are actually regulated to look out for your best interests. Because we have people who are popular, but they have no regulation. They're like say you listen to Susie Orman and you do everything that she says. Well, she doesn't have a license, so she can tell you anything. What I say to you, they regulate. They're probably recording everything that I'm saying right now. So if I say something totally inappropriate, I'm at risk for that. So, typically we're taking advice from people who are not regulated at all because we're so heavily regulated that we're afraid of what to say. So that's why you don't hear me talking about products or talking about returns. That's not because I don't want to. It's just because I know best that I cannot be here for you 10 years from now if I try to get stupid and give you information that's not appropriate for you. But it's more interesting for you to hear. But a real regulated advisor is not going to be coming out talking to you about this product is great, this is good. They don't even know you. So our number one requirement is you got to know your customer. You have to make sure, especially as an investment advisor, we need to understand the difference between an investment advisor and somebody that's working as your stockbroker. Your investment advisor is regulated according to your best interests. So you're starting to hear that more and more because Obama administration said anybody thinking about retirement accounts shouldn't be able to talk to anybody but a registered investment advisor. They were that serious about making sure that your retirement dollars are protected. But it didn't get fully into place. So Trump administration, they're not about heavy regulation, so they relaxed it more. But if we move back, we're going to see it more regulation, and especially if they in cybersecurity and things like that, we're going to and financial fraud and senior attacks on seniors. I'm hoping that we're going to start regulating more on protecting those who can't protect themselves. Just like our community was totally skipped over with the mortgage crisis that totally hurt us way more than any other community. And we still haven't fully recovered even our communities and our housing prices and everything from the mortgage crisis, in 2008 and 2007, 2008, 2009. We're still, and we're not, at this point, we don't know when we may fully recover because then this is hitting us again. So, definitely when you're thinking about alternative investments, be careful how you do it. Be careful what your motivation is and what you're trying to get, because there's a lot of easy ways to make money before I have to do it the hard way. Most people I meet, they want to talk about something hard, something complicated, something that's not liquid, meaning they can't even get to their money for years. They can't sell it every day. They can't say, I can sell, things immediately. So the liquidity is an issue for a person, especially an older person that might need access to their money. So all of these things need to be considered and matched up. This is the stuff that you should talk to a person about. If they don't understand that, if they're not asking you questions, they're just coming in and telling you, give me $10,000 and you buy this, then, you'll regret it later. It's kind of, it's just bad. It's bad. I was going to correlate it to like a date, a first date, but I'm not. But okay. Just be careful. Would
you mind leaving your phone number over there?
Oh, sure. 1-844. And then it's my name. But 1-844-522-77926.
JB, let me ask you this, because you're racing the clock. We see interest rates falling, and some people are probably thinking about refinancing their mortgages or their car loans.
That's right.
Is this a good time? Do you see them falling any lower?
We may see, but there's nothing that the Fed says they can't help us anymore with interest rates. So, because they're saying there's nothing else they can give up. So I think that this is an amazing time. The interest rates are great. You're basically not paying anything for the money. The problem is that people are refinancing and paying off consumer debt. Don't take your house and pay off your car and pay off your credit card and pay off your car, your credit card. And
that's all right there, JB. I'll let you explain that on the other side, because I think this is important for the folks listening, especially those who are trying to refi. 800-450-7876 to speak to JB Bryan. Your calls are next on 1450 WOL, where information is power.
I'm JB Bryan, the creator of Afroeconomics, a strategic financial empowerment program based on 10 timeless financial principles like generational wealth and legacy, financial knowledge, credit confidence,
entrepreneurship, self-reliance, and more. Afroeconomics gives you the guidance and tools you can use to develop and sustain wealth. Check out Afroeconomics on your favorite social media platforms. You will find us everywhere. Plus, enjoy my weekly Afroeconomics podcast. There are many levels of Afroeconomics membership, including the free online access membership level called No Excuses. So make no excuses and check out afroeconomics.com today. Powered by J.B. Bryan Financial Group, Incorporated, a registered investment advisory firm. #Afroeconomics.
Welcome to the Carl Nelson Show
on Washington, D.C.'s 1450 WOL Radio and live around the world on WOLDCnews.com.
And thank you for staying with us, folks. Momentarily, we'll be speaking with J.B. Bryan. J.B. is a financial advisor, one of the best out there in the DMV. And we were talking about refinancing because right now the rates are very low, and people are trying to get people to refi. You see the ads on TV all the time. People trying to get to refi whether their mortgage or refi their car loans or whatever. But you're saying that there's a caveat. So explain what you mean.
You have to be very careful because when you're refinancing, remember the loan officer wants the mortgage to be as large as possible. So you're giving up the ownership of your house when you refinance and take things out to pay off other debts just because the payment will be small. Like say you have a credit card and you're paying $200 a month, you can wrap that into your mortgage and it might only go up $25 a month. So you feel that you've done the greatest thing in the world. But what you've done is taken consumer debt, which is supposed to be short-term debt, because the things that you bought with them, they don't have any value over the long term. It's the same with the car. Car can be financed over 5-7 years because what? That's the life of the car. But a house can be financed over 30 years because the house still has value 30, 40, 50 years later. So what we need to be conscious of is like a lady asked me last week, she said she bought a car a month ago. And the car payment is too big for her, she says. So she wants to refinance her house, take that $40,000 and put it in it. And then she said, what would you do? And I said, don't ask me what I would do. She said, no, I said, do you really want to know what I would do? I said, yeah, I'd take the car back. She said, well, I like the car. I said, well, then you shouldn't ask me what I could tell you. Like the car. But if I did something, I'm not going to sit there and wallow in the mistake. I'm going to take the car back. You know, my credit, I said, especially if I was your age, I'd take the car back because your credit doesn't matter. You're not moving. You have fixed income. You're not trying to do anything. All you should do is protect the ownership in your house so that your payment. So all you really should be doing is refinancing the principal that's on there. So if the loan balance is $50,000 and it's at 5% and you can get it down to 2.7, even if you do it over 30 years and have a little $100 house payment, I get that because your debt hasn't gotten any higher. And you can in many cases, you can even pay it off. Like some people, it's better for them to refinance that little mortgage than for them to pay it off out of a retirement account because they're going to have to pay the federal government for every dime for taking that, say, $50,000 out. They may have to take out $75,000 to clear $50,000 to pay the house off. So with this interest rate, we can invest it, keep it in the IRA, investing and growing, and then you're easily, we don't have, that payment is so small that we can generate to pay the house payment with that and hopefully way outperform that low interest rate that they're charging you for that loan. Because the interest rates are so low, they're easy to beat.
Does it matter? Does age matter? Because you mentioned at her age, I guess you were implying that she's a little older, I should say.
That's right.
But if you're younger, is that a good move? If you're young and
never a good move to put the consumer debt. Never a good move to put the consumer debt in there. But being older, at least you don't have to worry as much about your credit score. But when you're younger, that's why you cannot get into consumer debt. And it's really sad when you're older and you're still into this consumer debt movement. Like we cannot, there's just, especially during this COVID time, there's a lot of people who are buying things and then regretting it later, but they're caught up. We want some sort of relief You know, you can't go take the cruise. You can't go. So this is a test of discipline. This is a test of discipline. But when we're talking about refinancing, you have to stick with what you actually owe on that mortgage and do everything you can to protect it. But it really doesn't happen that way. But you have to realize how much money that lender is making off of you. If you made a commitment instead to pay off that credit card, pay off that personal loan separate from your house ownership, because in reality, you can walk away from all of those consumer debt decisions. You could even file bankruptcy on them, but you cannot, if you can't replace you got to live somewhere. So if you have a small loan on there, you can refinance, you get an even smaller payment, and then you have this really inexpensive place that you like to live. But we should just avoid consumer debt by any means. It will take you out. And you're sitting there, really what your house could have been paid for, but because of materialism, you now have these personal debts going in and taking your ownership out of your house.
Right. And JB, we're going to cut it there, but that was some great advice that you left us with.
Right.
We're going to have to pick this up at another time, though. But I want to thank you for all the advice you gave today.
Thank you.
And once again, give your number of folks who've got issues and they, probably don't want to get their business all over the radio. How do they reach you? Sure.
jbbryan.com, afroeconomics.com, 1-844-522-7926. And Carl says my name correctly. There is no T on my name. Everybody thinks it's Bryan. You got it down. Thank you. JB Bryan. Please don't hesitate to call. I have free workshops throughout the week. It's all about empowerment and a free membership to Afro Economics, my advocacy membership. I want us all to be empowered. And thank you for the opportunity, Carl. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for the work that you do for us. Because, in these trying times, we need all the help we can get. Because it seems like we're always the last on the late train when things are changing, especially in the financial sector. Thank you again, JB.
Thank you. Mm-hmm.
All right.
Bye-bye.
That's JB Bryan.
Today's podcast was powered by JB Bryan Financial Group, a registered investment advisory firm and the home of Afro Economics in Virginia, Maryland, Washington, D.C., and New York.